Welcome back to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show, brought to you by Salvatore's Pizza. Our next guest on the Specialties Hotline is the longtime Penfield running coach, I should call him, because he's cross-country, he's indoor track, outdoor track. His name is Dave Hennessey. He's been doing this for more than 40 years. He's also the co-founder and the chairman of the Rochester Winter Track League. Dave, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. And you?
Very good. Probably preparation for a season, unlike – you're probably worrying more about logistics than you are about running technique, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's been an interesting since October or so, trying to prepare things, being told yes, we'll be able to use a facility. Then unfortunately things happen, so then they turn around and say no, you can't use it. And then fortunately coming up with my co-chairman, Bob Goodell, sitting out at Pinnacle Sports Zone watching his daughter playing soccer, and all of a sudden he said, wow, we could do track meets here. And fortunately, we've been able to work things out with them. So hopefully we'll have a season.
Friday, you just got off a call. Next Friday, Saturday, right, Steve? Sorry, I didn't mention that.
Yeah,
Pardon?
You just had a call with a lot of the coaches and everything. It looks like Pinnacle is planned as the site, but what can you tell our listeners just what the basics are that they can expect for this season, because it is going to be quite different than past seasons?
Oh, absolutely. So at the Pinnacle facility, because it wasn't designed for track and field meets, although they're very excited about doing it. One of the owners actually ran track a long time ago, both at Penfield and Irondequoit. So, but they allowed us to paint on the turf little dots, and we were able to create a 200-meter track there, which in width would be similar to a 6-lane track going around. And then on one side, we have a 8-lane straightaway for both the hurdles and the 55-meter dash, because under the state COVID guidelines, you're supposed to go every other lane. So therefore we can keep them, separated going down the straightaway. Then on the outside, they have a 320-meter track. Long straightaways, kind of short, sharp turns, but hey, it's the straightaways more than make up for the turns. And so we're going to run our distance races on that surface, and then we'll be able to conduct the shot put and the high jump there. There's no long jump pit for the long jumpers, triple jumpers, and the weight throwers are going to go because there's no netting there, and that's kind of crazy to do without netting.
Now, those are individual. What about the number of teams in the building at any one time? I heard you're doing blocks.
Right.
Times.
Well, we've always done blocks, but the maximum size of any meet will be 12 schools. And there's a limit on how many kids you can put in each event and how many total kids you can bring to any meet.
25, right? I think it's 25?
50 total.
Okay.
And not all schools are going to have that. Some schools only have 10, 12 kids there. So, the number averages out. So, we wanted to try to make sure there'd be no more than 400 athletes participating at any one time. And actually what we did when we made the track, we also went up to the area where the athletes are going to be, and we made boxes for them. So this is your spot, and then we put some distance between it, and then we created another box, And we did that all the way around so that teams wouldn't be on top of each other, and they can keep the social distancing. And the kids are supposed to wear their masks when they're not competing, and ideally we'd encourage them to wear their masks at all time. But if you're running a 2-mile, it could be difficult for some to be able to breathe and stuff. And so, again, following the state regulations and stuff, the kid has the possibility, if they have to, of removing the mask. And then as soon as they finish, you put it back on. And the kids are real good about that. In their world now, they're used to wearing masks. It's the adults you sometimes have to wear out.
Speaking of adults, probably no spectators, and
no spectators.
Will there be live streaming?
Yes. And we will have that out on the Section 5 website, what they need to do when they send that to us.
You'd been at the colleges, and such a big part of indoor track has been participation and the big numbers. And it won't be like that this year, but what do you hope the athletes that are able to compete take out of this season?
It's interesting. I think it was mid-November, we had the state indoor committee. We had a conference call, and we had a meeting with Dr. Zayas on there, who's in charge of the executive director of New York State Public High School. And his idea was that it would be good for kids to have some degree of normalcy in their life, where they could, have something where they could go to and practice and maybe have a few meets and, and in turn, by doing that, being able to do normal things. And, and that's basically what we have. We don't have, there will be no state meet this year. They decided that in December, and that made sense. Not so much where we were going to have it, Ocean Breeze. It's a brand new building, and they have the new air filters and all that sort of thing. But the concern was not only for indoor track, but for the other sports too. How are you going to get the kids down there? Where are they going to? How are you going to feed them? All those sort of things. They just said, yeah, we probably shouldn't do, a state meet, during the winter. Made total sense. So, they're letting the kids, having them something, normal to do on a Saturday, getting a chance maybe to see some of their friends from other schools, and, getting to be kids again.
Yeah, that's great to hear. In regard to practice, I know one thing where I work in Irondequoit, they were very initially concerned about kids running up and down the hallways practicing. And I think they've worked out some sort of method where they're going to make sure there's certain areas where those kids can practice in the school and go in a certain direction. Is that something you guys have dealt with at Penfield too?
Well, ours was simpler. Our AD called me in October and said, Dave, nobody can run inside in the halls this year. And I go, okay, fine. So we're in the gym, and that's it. The distance runners, they didn't want to go outside anyway. Even if it's sub-zero, they want to go outside even and go, no, don't you think you understand? No, that's where so, so we're going to be able to do that. That was one of the interesting questions that schools posed to Bob Goodell, my co-director and head of the Rochester, the Finger Lakes League. How are we supposed to practice if we don't use the halls? And it drove us nuts because we don't know what each school looks like. So we don't know what they have available to them. And I guess at one meeting, one of the superintendents, they were talking about it, and they goes, well, it's not that hard. You say, kids, you're going outside. You can train in the, the school bus loop. You can be on the turf field if they have one. You can be running up. There are a lot of different things that you can do. It's, sometimes you just have to think outside the box. And that's kind of like what we did at Pinnacle is we're definitely thinking outside the box,
Hey, so far it's been a mild winter. Who knows? Maybe you could end up running something outside if you catch the right weather. So.
Well, we told them a long time ago, and we used to have, and it was amazing, we always used to have a parking lot meet at Penfield. And we'd schedule it in advance. And the nice thing was it was always during the January thaw. So the weather was really nice. And, the parking lot at Penfield that time worked itself into a nice circle, and it didn't interfere with any of the traffic coming in or anything like that. And we had some real nice performances out there. And I still remember to this day, one kid goes, I can't believe we're running in the parking lot. And I said, you'll think, during the spring, you'll be appreciating this day that we're running out here. And unfortunately, I was right, because it was a real cold spring. So, it was good. But, and we used to do all sorts of other things. We used to run through the halls of Franklin on the top floor, and the old field house at Brockport that they finally tore down. We were out there. I mean, we've been very fortunate that over the last few years, we've had a number of choices from the various colleges just because, they now have field houses. I mean, we're the envy of so many other sections. So, this year, things are going to be a little different.
Well, Dave, we appreciate your time, all the work you're doing for the athletes, you and Mr. Goodell, Coach Goodell, and all the athletic directors locally. I know we're working on this together to make sure it happens for these kids. It's a great job by all of you. Thanks for making some time for us on the show today. We appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thank you very much.
We'll be back with our last segment on the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show, brought to you by Salvatore's Pizza.